Generosity plays a heavy role in my family's life. I mean, I think we come from two sets of parents who've been over time, the most givers of all people that we've been exposed to. From that to where I'm at right now, heavily involved in the community, heavily involved in the church, and heavily involved in my kids' school, and so kind of giving of my time, talents, and treasure within those three areas is a big part of myself and my family's life right now. How I've arrived to kind of this point in time of I guess my assessment of generosity and service, and let's be clear, there's a long way to go. Let's hope and consider that I can continue down the path. But in terms of how I've gotten here, I think it's kind of interesting, is giving some thought to that question before coming to see you. And there's a couple of kind of critical junctures along the way that help you kind of define yourself, and its exposure to these individuals and these pivots within your life. In particular, if you look at a couple of critical points in time, and people had huge impact based upon their generosity. As a kid, I went to 3 different grade schools and 3 different high schools. And the third high school was in between junior and senior year. And we're moving to Indianapolis, Indiana, so new town from Pennsylvania, new city, new school. And I went and I was a tennis player, and so I went to visit 3 different high schools because playing high-level tennis was important at the time, so I was kind of assessing not only academics, school environment. It's my senior year in high school, and of course tennis. Anyway, I went to a Catholic high school, a Jesuit school called Rebuff, amongst a couple others, and I was on a weekend and met with the principal of the school, who was a Jesuit priest, Father Noth, and he really took an unbelievable amount of time. Met me that day Saturday, met me that day, the next day Sunday, showed me around the school, got me hooked up with the tennis coaches, got me hooked up with the senior class president. And again, I'm just one student coming in to high school, and ended up going to the school. He ended up setting up an advanced placement program for me around history that he personally taught, and it really took an unbelievable amount of personal time, generosity-wise, to make that really tough transition time in my life a good one. Fast forward a couple of years, and now I'm in college, and my college roommate from sophomore, junior, and senior year is a guy named Jimmy Shannon. And his dad, Ryan Shannon, really to me kind of exposed me to generosity at an enormous level. He, granted, was a very, very successful man, but he would come to town and really put us at ease with the kind of trials and tribulations that were going on. Obviously take us to dinner and provide us an unbelievable platform to kind of get to know somebody who's had success and who's a great man of character and faith. He passed soon thereafter, a couple years after we were out of school, and I'll never forget talking to Jimmy in the receiving line about how his dad really, to me, exposed enormous amounts of generosity to an unbelievable degree. Now, a man of great means, but gave far more than he received in that manner. And those two, again, kind of critical points in time for me on this kind of generosity journey. They are pieces and parts of people that you kind of bring to yourself, and that some of the whole helps define your own kind of generosity. And so if you take some of those experiences, and there are many, many others. But two I thought kind of were interesting stories and pieces that, again, at critical times kind of make up who I am today. All of that, all of those pieces are really covered by my parents. I mean, you know, people who are in a good family and a close family and have, you know, parents that they're super close with today, I think get the benefit from some sort of generosity from the parents, because obviously there's huge sacrifices that have to be made along the way. You can put two and two together. If we moved 3 times when I was in grade school and 3 times when I was in high school, I mean, think about how difficult that is now as a parent of 3 kids, how tough that is for my parents, and yet, you know, as a kid you don't even give that a thought. It's all about how difficult this is for you as a kid, as a senior in high school, and as a sophomore in high school, as it was for me, and the years beyond that. And so now having the hindsight of putting myself in my parents' shoes, and how not a consideration, not a, you know, an ounce of concern for them. They put all 4 of us and all of our concerns way out in front of their own, and because of that, you know, we're generous people all across the board. My brother and 2 sisters, incredibly so, and there's no 2 people to point to on this planet that deserve, you know, 99.9% of that credit than my folks. Couple quick stories on my mom in particular, because showing my dad's generosity, he would point to you know, to the 80-20 rule of that to my mom as well. But my mom is over the top, selfless to a fault, and my grandchildren, or her grandchildren, my kids, and my wife and I are enormous beneficiaries of that. She, you know, as kids was the one who would sleep on the floor. She, you know, as adults is the one who stays behind at the football games, you know, with the kids in strollers and everybody else, so that we get to go forward. For the last 15 years we've gone to Hilton Head 20 people, so there's 10 grandchildren, my siblings and spouses, my parents, all up to 20 people. There's enough kind of beds and rooms and everything else for almost everybody, air mattresses and so forth. The one person who, for the last 15 years, has slept on the sofa every night is my mom. At this big, huge, you know, 6-bedroom house, there's, you know, for 20 people, there's just not enough places to sleep. And so, for 15 years, has kind of selflessly kind of given everybody else the spot instead of her. It's my mom. So, for me, you know, doing this this chat here with you today is maybe an opportunity for my, you know, son to kind of hear some of these stories, my daughters to hear some of these stories, and put what they see through me a little bit, what they see through their grandma and grandpa a lot, and take that kind of generosity forward to a big degree. In terms of kind of growing and progressing along the kind of generosity and service spectrum, I mean, a lot of it has to do with who you're surrounded by. So I've got a very supporting and loving wife and family. I've been blessed to be in a great situation from a community and school and church standpoint, because there's a tight-knit, close-knit component to that. You are able to assess where you are and be exposed to people who are far, more generous, more service-oriented, and emulating them helps you kind of push yourself to be less about you and more about others. I still think on kind of self-assessment, I'm generous in giving out of excess, certainly not in a deficit manner. and yet working more towards that. I think that not that that has to be a huge goal, but I think that there's a lot more to give based upon what we have as a family, both of our time, certainly of our treasures, but also our talents, right? I mean, we're trying to, where we're good, use those talents and help others to up-level, their game or their access or their lot in life. Absolutely, my life has been rewarded by the generosity of others, and certainly kind of the generosity that I and my family put forward. I think it's almost selfish in a manner of speaking, because obviously you give from what you have in order to kind of feel good and have an unsolicited accolade or an unsolicited maybe it is a solicited kind of accolade response from somebody, and it's a little bit unfortunate. I think as you move again down this path, in terms of expecting more from myself, I hope that I'm able to, and my kids and people who might see this will see an opportunity to have generosity flow more out of kind of rawness, as opposed to expectations for reciprocation or acknowledgement, and that's something that I need to work on. I mean, that's something that you acknowledge and so forth, but if there's a goal and a kind of a next step for me, it's being more on the giving end of things without the acknowledgement or accolades that by human nature you kind of rely on. I think kind of jumping into to the idea of service-oriented life and a generous generosity based approach. It's all about just doing and doing in a very, very small, bite-sized manner to get started there, right? Pick out a particular issue or cause or group or committee or whatever it is, and just get involved. I mean, I think for me, we've been big proponents of kids' activities, and as it relates to school and as it relates to sports. And so one of the things, as I look at myself, I'm the tennis committee chairman of our neighborhood. I'm on the board for our neighborhood. I'm on the finance council at school. I'm on the stewardship council at the church. The capital campaign committee at church. I mean, these are all kind of committees that I've been a part of in the last bunch of years, and I didn't set out to do any of them. I kind of played tennis with a guy, got invited, didn't think I could make it to this meeting, ended up getting involved. We ran a capital campaign for the church. That led to being asked to help out with the school based on my relationship with the church, and so I think what's interesting is just doing something very small around an area that you find a great interest, and you get to meet people, and you get again this kind of reward about yourself. You feel very good about it, and that's okay, and that leads, I think, one to take on more and more kind of down this generosity spectrum, and again, there's never kind of a good enough time, and there's never probably enough bandwidth in your lifestyle. But just jumping in on a very small scale around something you're very passionate about, and I think that will really open up doors for anybody who's looking maybe to jump in. I think time, talent, and treasure. I think that those are three things from a school and church standpoint that we focus on a lot to get people involved, not only on one of the three pillars, but all three. Right? I mean, they're all at a premium. I mean, we don't have enough treasure. It seems like these days to do the things that we want and sometimes need to do, but mostly want. Time is at an enormous premium. And then, whether you think about it or not, we all have certain talents that people can be leveraged, that people can leverage, that we can help people out with. And so I think it's pretty critical for all three to be a part of the equation. It's easy to write a check on the treasure front sometimes, easy to commit a small amount of insignificant time on the time front. And then I think talents is maybe the most critical, right? I mean, I'll never forget a conversation I had with Sean McGraw, dear friend, and talking about my desire to get kind of more involved with things, and talking about soup kitchens and other opportunities to potentially donate my time. And I've been in technology for 20 years, and he said, do that stuff, but really what you need to do is, based on my tennis background and based upon technology background, is like, you really need to be involved in giving of your talents on those two fronts, because those are talents you have, and those are things that can impact people's lives, as opposed to something that is certainly needed and necessary, but not necessarily where my talents. And there's some wisdom in that, because if you're giving of your talents and you have passion behind those talents, it's going to again be more rewarding to you and to the person on the receiving end of that. So of the three, certainly figuring out where your talents are and maybe how to have some impact around that. Obviously, there's the spillover of then the time that's a part of that, and then treasures is a key component of that, and I think hopefully people can find whatever kind of means they have to give on the treasure front. I mean, we ran the annual annual fund for the school as a finance chairman for the Principals Advisory Council at our school, our local school, and the annual fund was a means to really bridge the gap between the cost to educate and the tuition and dollars brought in. And so it's a pretty critical component to making the school go. And so to really focus on 100% participation of the entire student body and their parents, we put together a program that really focused on treasure in any capacity. And if you couldn't give of any dollar amount, we really wanted to have you at least come and give of prayer and support. And we facilitated the means to do that, to be able to document that we had 100% participation. And so if you look at time, treasure, and talents, I think all three are very, very critical, and it's all relatively based. I think if you focus on your talents and how you might be able to give of that, time and treasure take part of that or spin off of that. But I couldn't be more bullish on those three things, kind of defining your generosity scope. And if you can make the time to give up talents, time and treasure follow. Yeah, how much is enough to give is a very good question, because I think as I sit here today, I'd probably give myself not a failing grade, but not a grade that I'd be proud of, not a grade I'd be proud to take home to my parents, if you will. And I think that's maybe sometimes an impetus to actually get started at all. I think A lot of us are, type A successful people, and if we can't do anything, can't do something to a level of great success or of huge impact, then we don't do anything to begin with. And so I think it's hard to assess what is enough when what really should be the measure of success is, are you doing something? And I think if you can kind of look in the almighty mirror and say, I'm doing something, and it might not be as much as I can, but I'm doing something, and then kind of benchmark that, give yourself 6 months or a year, or put some sort of kind of time frame on it, and kind of continue to check and see if you're status quo, if you've fallen back, or if you've inched forward. Right, this whole thing of life is a journey, and so I think stops along the way for assessment as to where you are in that journey are critical, and kind of generosity and the level of generosity is no different. And so I don't think it's fair to assess how much you are in comparison, because I think we all know very generous people, and we'll all kind of, if we compare ourselves to those folks, we'll always kind of underperform. And that can have a detrimental effect from kind of jumping in to begin with. And so, I think only you can be the arbiter of your own generosity level. And I think if you're kind of looking at it in regular intervals, you'll find out, whether you're comfortable with your level of give or not. I think the generation that we are bringing up are going to have it difficult. I think the main reason why I chose to say yes to Jim Grady and some of the folks who asked me to sit down today is because I do hope that my kids will maybe see this video and maybe the videos of others who maybe articulate this better. But I think it's hard for us as successful parents to be able to have our kids be grounded in a notion of generosity. A generation in front of us, my parents had nothing. And my dad had to work 3 jobs to put himself through school, through college. My mom didn't get to go to college. She was one of 9, the oldest daughter, who actually went to work and sent money home so her brothers could go to college. That was what was done in that generation. And so, again, kind of her generosity is off the charts. It is over the top and has been since obviously a young age. And it's had an impact on me, in my parents' generosity, and that generation's generosity. And yet I look kind of through the lens of our family right now, and there's a lot of things that our kids aren't even expected to do within our own household, let alone kind of beyond that. And that's concerning. So how do we rectify that, and how do we address that? And we try to do things as a family around some family service projects. Not nearly enough, not nearly as often. We've been down to the Trinity House in downtown Atlanta to serve food. We've been to the Ronald McDonald House as a family to meet and greet and serve food. We've done that every year for the last 10 years. No, we've done it a handful of times. Yes. Is that enough? Probably not. Is it a start? Are we at least jumping in with a step? We are, and so hopefully that has somewhat of an impact on my kids. But I think our generation right here needs to do more, or else the generation that we're rearing will really lose a lot of their sense of obligation around service and generosity. I think it's a dangerous. We talk about it often. and we tried to take actions towards it. But at the same time, back to the time, talent, and treasure. Time is such a premium that we need to make sure we're sacrificing some of that time to focus our kids and ourselves on the generosity aspects of life. So amazingly, later this week, we spill into June of 2013, and so June 22nd is the 50th anniversary of my parents. So 50 years together is just incredible. And so as I think about that, and as I think about Kelly and I being in our 12th year, with Anna, Lucy, and Austin being 10, 9, and 7, my message to Anna, Lucy, and Austin, and to their kids, if they so choose that path, would be something like this. So look at your parents on both sides, Alan and Linda Bearclaw and Joe and Mary Pat Kalbas. Two wonderful sets of parents who've been very, very, very close, who've raised incredible families in their own right, who really kind of set the stage for us to provide for you three. And I hope that you'll then take that forward and provide the same kind of care, loving, tight-knit family that you're a part of today. As I think about you seeing this video, whether it's a month from now or years and years from now, the thing that strikes me as wonderful is we as a family will always be together in any shape or form, meaning whether it's physical or spiritual, will be an extended family from my parents and their parents down through you and any kids that you'll have, and down through their kids. And not knowing my grandparents all too great, but having lots of aunts and uncles, and obviously being very close to my parents and very close to my siblings. It's very important to me and to your mom that you have this same very, very committed and selfless and generous relationship with your siblings going forward. So this is to you, Austin, Anna, and Lucy. Look at please look at least my family, siblings, parents, grandparents, and how close that we are. Make sure you make the commitment to each other to remain that close. That's something that I cherish to this day. Will always cherish it. Again, my mom and dad celebrating their 50th anniversary this coming month. We, as you know, spend every single holiday together. We look for opportunities to get to Indianapolis and to Notre Dame football games, and to North Carolina tennis matches, and have them come in for Grandparents' Day and First Communions. We have Austin's next year, and so as we think about the incredibly close connectivity that we have as a family, please take that forward and make sure that's a part of the fabric of your families going forward. And that's rooted in selflessness. It's rooted in generosity, not only outside of the family but within the family. You got to make all sorts of sacrifices to make that happen. And I hope that we, Kelly and I, have instilled that in you, that you'll make it a priority and that you'll see it in your hearts and minds to stay close to the family and to stay connected with us and your siblings going forward. I'll just add that you know, as my family knows, I'm not as comfortable on camera. You know, I've given a best man speech to my brother. I've given all sorts of talks for business and elsewhere. But you know, this is an opportunity to talk to my family in this video, and I couldn't be more proud to be a Kalbas, be a part of my mom and dad's 50th anniversary this year. We feel like we're raising, you know, 3 great kids, not without their opportunities and challenges, but with the love and faith that we've had in our parents, in our faith in God. I think it's led us to an unbelievable opportunity to have a lot of love, a lot of fun as a family going forward. So look forward to it.